Now, for those of you that have been around the channel for a while, you'll know that I have a pretty nice camera. It's the Canon 700D, and I do a lot of my photography in that. But today we want to talk about something that every single one of you will have in your pocket, something that you can get started on without having to spend hundreds of pounds, and that is your mobile phone. Plenty you can do in this in terms of filming and photography. Today we're going to take a look at mobile photography. Okay, so this was meant to be a tutorial on mobile photography, but right now this guy walked out of the bushes we saw, just followed us the full way up the path. He's now right there. We're kind of hiding down behind a bank. He's shitting himself.
He's on his own, so it's not as if he looks like he's part of the goons or something, cutting shit down. He's literally just on his own, with a Stanley knife and a saw, walking about here.
Okay, so for this video as well, as we're talking about mobile photography, someone that's just getting into it, we have got Steely down there with us as well. I've been teaching him a little bit about it for when he's at the gym and stuff like that, and he's away with Hannah, and he wants to get some nice shots, so we're going to use Reese here as an example for this video, but I think he currently is just wanting to make sure everyone knows we're safe, because that guy's still a little bit sketchy. Okay, so as I said, we have got Reese with us here as well, and I'm going to be taking him through the stuff as I show you guys as well. Reese, you're going to be learning a bit more about mobile photography today. Looking forward to it?
Yeah, I'm up for that, mate. I think that's my main source of what I've got. Job.
So right now we've got Steely weighing up his options if he wants to go down there or no.
Stop mocking me!
Okay, so he's got that little bit to go down there, which is actually steeper than it looks, so it'll be a bit difficult for getting back up. And I don't think he feels like going for a swim.
I think you should go leg over. I think that's the tactic, man. I think leg over's the tactic.
Aye, this is better for a photo though.
We need to see if you can get down first. And then if you can, I'll go photo. I'm recording this whole thing. See if you fall in. That'll be funny, but just don't split your head open or something.
Try not to.
If you fall in, just make it a non-damaged fall in.
Back here, the extra. I'm pretty happy here, Frank.
You know, going for it.
Wait, the way it's bouncing when you start here.
It will hold.
I'm not worried about whether it will hold or not, but I'm having to fucking fight to keep my balance here, never mind going down that bit. Guaranteed I'll get halfway down that bit and go backwards and fucking kill myself on that. It's one of those ones, if I could get my foot onto that, I could stabilise myself, but just can't reach it. Okay, so we found a pretty decent spot for it now, down here at the bottom next to this little waterfall bit. Reese is having fun climbing on rocks right now. Is he going to fall? Is he going to fall? Oh, nah, he's alright. He's alright. But we found a nice little place for it here, so first things first, I'm going to take a few snaps in the camera, then we'll talk about that, and then we'll get onto the actual phone side of it, and how you guys can get almost DSLR-like photos from your phone. The most important and the biggest thing that sets aside a DSLR from like digital cameras, point and shoots in your phone is the fact that you can change lenses. Now, why is changing lenses so important? It's important because different lenses give you kind of different effects. Like this lens I've got on right now, it's my 10-18. I've got it right down at 10mm. I've got it stopped wide open as it will go at 4.5. So as you can see, everything behind me is really in focus until you start getting really far out. Everything's quite sharp, everything's in focus, I'm still in focus as well. And that kind of comes with the higher the f-stop number. Now, to get a really nice shallow depth of field, the shallow depth of field is when the background looks blurry. And to get that, you really need a low f-stop, and that's kind of the advantage of lenses. Like, my favourite lens is my 50mm 1.8, which is actually right here. This is my favourite lens, Canon 50mm 1.8. Gives me really nice depth of field, really shallow, really tight, really allows you to punch in on the details that you want to focus on. And up till recently, you were not able to get that on a phone or a point and shoot. You still can't really get it in a point and shoot, but phones nowadays, thought I dropped something there, that would have been a disaster, but phones nowadays are starting to bridge that gap, thanks to the fact that they're having 2 cameras on it now, which allows them to focus on different points of view, calculate the depth behind it, and give that simulated bokeh effect. Phone cameras are catching up, you can do that now on phones, and that's becoming a really big thing for phone photography. It allows you to get professional looking shots, and with some simple editing, some simple colour correction, all done on your phone. Whew! That was close. Oh my god! So now that random dog attacks have been ruled out the picture and I'm holding the camera now and we're nowhere near the water, feeling a little bit safer. That was... I mean, you'll have just saw the footage from Reese's point of view and from my point of view when I just saved the camera, because the dog literally jumped over the camera. As I grabbed the camera. That was way too close for comfort there for me. Like, oh my god. But anyway, back on to the main point of the video. As I was saying, lenses, they give you the choice of, they give you a lot more control over your photos, but phones are starting to catch up to that point. So we're going to take a few shots with the phone now, a few shots with the camera, compare them, and then I'm going to talk you guys through some simple edits and that kind of thing, and how I take my photos on my phone. Okay, so now we've got Reese, and Reese is going to go through the process I normally use for taking photos on my phone. Now, both of us do have Huawei's, which have pretty nice cameras on them. I've got the P20, Reese has got the P30, and they have got some pretty good cameras on them. Now, the one mode I always use on my phone when I'm shooting is aperture mode, which on a Huawei is if you swipe all the way to the left. That just gives you, as I said, that kind of bokeh, shallow depth of field look. It gives you control over what's known as the aperture or the f-stop. You'll hear either term, they can be interchanged for it. That does give you a bit of control over both. The aperture, you will see in the image, in the top right hand side of it, there's a little aperture icon, which you can click on and then drag the icon. Normally I drag it all the way down to 0.9. With it at 0.9, you do get the shallowest depth of field possible. Now I'm just going to get Reese to take a couple of photos of the waterfall, see what he thinks looks good, then we're going to take them into an edit. Right, so the first thing I normally like to do is I'll normally pull up my photos and I'll have a look through them, see what ones I like, see what ones give me the best kind of stuff to work with. Personally, I quite like this one and this one, but it is Reese that's going to be editing them, so it's Reese's choice what one he prefers. And if you're happy to go with that one, go with that one. Once you've got one settled in,
yeah, we'll go with that.
Go with that one. Then what we do, little pen icon here, gives you all your options for editing. I'll normally go into adjust here. You've got your brightness, your contrast, saturation, shadows, highlights, etc. What I'll normally do for a photo typically, bring the brightness down a little bit, bring up the contrast so it's looking that little bit punchier, and bring up the saturation as well. Contrast went up a little bit too much, so just drag that back down. I like my shadows to look really dark, so I'll normally bring my shadows down a little bit as well. And depending on the look you kind of want to give it, if you want it to look a little bit cooler, you can add a little bit of a blue hue to it. If you want it to look a lot more summery, you can add a bit of a yellow hue to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to undo all of that. And then I'm going to leave Reese to edit it and see what he thinks looks good on it. So all it is with this kind of thing, everyone has a different style. I like my photos to be quite clear. I like mine to be quite punchy, quite contrasty. So for me, I normally crank the contrast up. Maybe not quite that high, that's a little higher than I normally do it, but I like the contrast up. If I'm in Lightroom, I'll normally turn the clarity up a bit as well on my photos. Like them to be quite saturated. I like that kind of typical esports look that you get, but it is all about user preference. It's all about playing about and finding your own style. My style isn't necessarily going to be the same as yours or the same as Reese's. So as you can see, Reese's is playing about here, looking through all the settings, deciding what he kind of likes best. And when he's done and he thinks he's done, we'll have a look at the before and the after. So, as you can see there, that's him. He says that'll do, that's him done. We just hit this compare button. You can see here the difference in it. Looks a lot more bright, looks a lot more summery. You're getting a lot more yellows. The greens are coming through a lot more. The shadows are a little bit more washed out. But it does give it a nice summery feel with the photo. If you're someone that likes that kind of thing, then that might be a style for you. You might like a similar style to Reese. But for a first time trying it, pretty good edit. Okay, so now I am back at home and I've got all of Reese's photos from him. I've got all the photos off my camera. Now, when I was out today, these three first images are from my camera. When I was shooting with my camera, as you can see there with the file extension, I did make sure to shoot in JPEG just to be as close to a phone camera as possible, because if I shot in RAW on my camera, then there would be absolutely no contest whatsoever. So we wanted to keep it kind of as close as possible to a fair contest, but still show you the difference between a DSLR and phone. So I was shooting in JPEG today. That's something I would not normally do. If you are shooting on a DSLR, I recommend you shoot RAW. You just get so much more data in the image and it gives you a lot more to work with in editing. Like, for example, this one's really underexposed, but we'll go into that in a minute. So we're going to go through the photos now. This one, DSLR, nice one of the waterfall. This was with my 50mm. 50mm again, nice shot of the bushes with the waterfall. And then this was my 10-18, nice wide shot of the graffiti on the pillars at the bridge. Now, this is where we get into Reese's. This one's mine. This was mine. This was shot on my phone on aperture mode. And then the rest are Reese's ones of the waterfall. Now, you can see here straight away, when I spoke about bokeh earlier in the video, or the shallow depth field, you can see his camera trying to work with that and try to do it. You can see these plants here are like really soft, they're out of focus, but the detail on the tree bark here is really sharp, it's really in focus, and then again in the background it's quite blurred here, a little bit sharper here, but not quite as sharp as the tree trunk. It's the same for a lot of these photos. You can see the tree trunk in focus, plants here in the grass out of focus, trees in the background out of focus. This one was a bit of a weird one. The tree was out of focus, the plants are out of focus. It's focusing on this little spot here for some reason, but even at that, all the trees around it are out of focus, and it just seems to be this little spot here. That one was a weird one. I think the camera sensor was just going a bit weird on that one. And then the last one again, tree branch in focus, everything in the background nice and soft, everything in the foreground nice and soft. You get a nice focus on the water and then the tree going down across the water. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take these, we're going to edit these, and then I'm going to show you some before and afters. I'm going to start with going through these now and picking one image from each. What we are going to do as well is we're going to compare these two. But I need to pick one of my waterfall images, this one here, or this one. Personally, this one's going to be a bit more of a challenge because it's darker. This one's a bit better exposed and I'll have a lot more data to work with, whereas that's going to be quite underexposed. I may try and rescue this one, but that'll be a bonus part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare this one. Now, what was probably Reese's best shot here? Personally, I like this one just because you've got the action with the water and the tree. So we're going to close these ones out. We are going to compare this one with this one after editing. Not this one. computers never want to make it easy for you, you'll do it the hard way. So we're going to be comparing these two side by side. Now straight away you can already see something though. My camera is a lot less saturated, it's a lot flatter of a colour profile, whereas coming straight out the phone you can see the greens are a lot more saturated, the water's not quite as frozen. It was shot at a lower shutter speed, so the water kind of looks more like it's flowing smoothly, whereas with mine you can see each individual bit frozen because I was shooting at a higher shutter speed than the phone camera. Now this is obviously talking about the limitations of a phone camera, but I do want to show you guys just how much an edit can bring up your photo regardless of what you're shooting on. But again, we are going to be looking at the difference between editing this, which is already not quite heavily edited, but it's had some post-processing done by the phone straight away, whereas the camera is a lot flatter, gives me a lot more room to work with. So we're going to edit these two first, then we're going to come back to it. Okay, now straight away with the DSLR photo, as you can see it is quite flat, it's quite a flat colour profile, so the first thing I like to do, always the first thing I do with my photos is I crank the clarity up. You can see here this kind of brings out the detail more in the water in the background, in the tree bark, in the plants, and the leaves. If I zoom in a little bit you'll be able to see that. You can see it kind of brings out the detail a little bit more contrasty. And speaking of contrast, I will normally put the contrast up a little bit. You can see here. Now, straight away, just by moving the clarity and the contrast, you can see the difference between the two images. Straight away, it's night and day. So we do also want to put the saturation up, vibrance up a little bit. Now, the exposure is okay. We could maybe bring it up a little bit if we want it to be quite bright, quite summery. At that point, maybe add a little bit more of a yellow tint to it, make it feel quite nice, quite bright, quite light. Bring our shadows down a little bit, bring our blacks down a little bit, just really compress the blacks. As I said, I do like mine to be quite punchy, so straight away you can see a huge difference in the edit. This is just with a very, very basic edit. If you do want to get into detail a bit more, you can come in here to your HSL adjustments where you can adjust the saturations, the hues. So for example, you want your greens to be a bit more yellow, or do you want to drag them over till they're actually popping a bit more green. Your aquas, again, you can do the same thing. And it just gives you that option with really any colour that's in the image. So it's like our oranges are like the top of the tree here. We can see that. We can have that red. Doesn't really suit it though, so we can bring it over a little bit more towards the yellow side so that the bark's a little bit more uniform. Now, the saturation, we really want that grass on the left to pop, so we're going to bring the saturation up on the greens, and then again with luminance we'll bring that up. We can bring that up a little bit. Maybe it looks a little too faded out, so maybe bring that down a little bit, just get a nice strong green coming through. That way that foliage at the edge really, really stands out. Now, this is just a quick edit. This is something I am pretty happy with. Now, if you do not want to take the time to sit and go through everything, all these, there are presets. You can come in here, there are presets that you can use. If I go through them here, you'll see it. If I come through creative, there's a lot more. Personally, I like high contrast and detail and vivid. I think those two look quite nice. But yeah, I don't want to use that. I'm going to go with my custom one. I like that. I like how it looks. So we'll apply that there. And there you go. You can see that as the final product. A lot nicer, a lot brighter. Just a lot more summery feeling overall. Now we're going to go do the same thing with Reese's and see how we can get this looking. Now this one, because I've took you guys through it, I'm just going to quickly fly through this one until I get to a point I'm happy with it. Typically my style is really the same for a lot of stuff. I want my greens to be a lot more green, yellows to kind of come over to orange a little bit more, aquas, we can move that a little bit more, saturation, a lot of saturation green in the foreground, luminance, we'll bring that down a little bit there. That looks quite nice. I quite like that. So there again, you can see big difference even editing that. Now, this doesn't look as clean to me just because it wasn't shot obviously on a high-end camera. There wasn't really as much control over it, but again, night and difference. You can see the edit. The greens are really punchy now. The water actually stands out a lot more because we did crank up that clarity. Obviously, you can put it up a little bit more. You can bring it down. That is completely up to yourself. You can maybe throw in a little bit of texture as well. Bit of dehaze if that's kind of your thing as well. There we go. I actually like that. I'm going to leave that like that. So you can see the before and after there for that one as well. Now, what I'm going to do off camera, I'm going to go through these images as well, get these ones done, and show you the difference between phone and camera and these ones as well. So we'll be right back. Okay, so very quickly you can see the difference in this one. The grass is a lot more saturated. The colours on the columns themselves are a lot more saturated. If I was to use this, I'd probably do a bit more work, maybe removing some of the litter from it, because that just doesn't look nice in a photo. But yeah, you can see big difference straight away. Now I'm going to go onto the phone image and show you guys what that one looks like. And once again, as the trend is with the mobile photos, there's not as big a difference, but that is because, as I said, the post-processing going on in the phone itself after you take the images, it isn't as flat a profile, so you're already getting quite a worked on product, so there's not as big a difference when you take it in and work on it in Photoshop or Lightroom or anything that you would use, as if you were taking a raw camera image with this one. Now, as I said, I'm going to try and recover this one as well, just as a bonus clip, guys, so I'm going to fly through this right now and show you guys the end result of actually trying to bring this up, and how even if you get a really underexposed shot like this, sometimes you can save it. Now, with this one, you can really see the advantage of having a DSLR over a mobile. But as I said, this was shot in JPEG, this wasn't even shot in RAW. If I was shot in RAW, I'd have even more data to work with and could probably have done a little bit more with it, but this is just a very quick 30-second edit just to show you how much you can actually bring an image back, bring it back to life, and possibly even restore it into a usable product. Now, this is not to say you cannot do this with mobile, this is just to show you if you take the time to edit your photos, this is the ability you have. That doesn't mean take a bad photo on your phone, you look at it, you're like, oh, that's too dark, and delete it. If it's a good photo and it's just a little bit dark, you can save it. Look at this image here. So a lot of this comes down to edit. And as I said before, guys, it's all about finding your personal style. Just thought I'd show you an example of all these at the end. We'll probably just go through the before and afters again. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you're new around here. Ding dong that bell. And we will see you guys on Monday for the next video. Have a good day, guys.